morning, folks. This is Talking About here on WESN. Now, usually, of course, I would have a preamble and I would have a daily review, and we'll go into a lot of miscellaneous topics before we get into the big topic of the day. And of course, every Wednesday we have the good lady herself. And I thought, yesterday we had a whole set of other people's opinions. And of course, we always look forward to when Karen is on Talking Point, the next time she's on after the budget. And I thought, well, perhaps we should give it enough time to hit as many spots as we can in one episode and continue the post-budget discussion, analysis. While the debate goes on, we have the good lady herself here. As a former Minister of Finance, this is one particular exercise of government that she has direct experience with. So, of course, welcome. Good to have you once again for our post-budget discussion. This might be our third, I think.
Perhaps so. I'm glad to be here, and I was glad to take up the invitation because just like you, I think you are very committed to what you do, and same for me. So
we had, of course, one of the things that was talked about, I'm sure by a lot of the people, the first impressions, oh, this is a long budget. But I guess with regards to your experience, I'm sure the length of it did not impress you as you have mentioned to me. But what else was one of just the first takeaways from the budget? For me, it was the fact that he said a lot of things without a lot of specific hard numbers to back up what he was saying, right? And that was before we got into the real meat of the future, what the actual budget was projecting. What about you? What was your initial grasp of it?
Well, Sean, the thing about it is that my perspective, I suppose it's unique, and it's not. I'm only unique because I was Minister of Finance, and therefore I was responsible for the preparation and presentation of a budget. Of course, you have all the budget documents to support it, and which I would suggest that people look at because that is prepared by the technocrats, and it's a pretty good guide, and they use data from CSO and Central Bank, etc., etc. So my lens is a little bit different from what other people would have had of it. And yes, I quoted in one of the papers today saying it was long. It was almost abusive, in my opinion. And I may be wrong. I said it that the minister seemed to take a sort of a perverse pleasure in my. But I may be wrong. I may be very wrong about that. But it did come across from his, usual, very jolly way, that he understood that a lot of people had a captive or captured audience because people were waiting for the big numbers, the revenue and expenditure and the fiscal measures. And so we had to wait through 5.5 hours, and that was absolutely unnecessary. I certainly didn't do it when I was there. I don't think I would have been allowed to do something like that when I had Prime Minister, because I am a minister of many ministers. And I'm speaking on behalf of the government because my portfolio is to put forward what the government's vision is, and I have a leader who's the Prime Minister. So I don't know that I would have thought of or would have done what was done. I did say, in general, it was really almost, I have no words for it, really. It is really stumped for words. But on the big ticket items, there's still a lot of work to be done. It seemed as though he was preparing for, it seems, as I understand that, I've been in the political arena, so I understand that too. But it was like he was preparing for next year elections. So the fiscal measures reflect that, but that is going to be another, whilst I'm not against anything about giving the non-government workers an increase, which would be CPEP, URP, workers and MTS, certainly not going to want to say that they don't have hardship. I think now it's going to cause a great divisiveness with that between the public sector and the private sector, and a greater demand from the private sector divisions for increased salaries, and you're going to see more inflation.
Well, right, more inflation. Hold that thought, because I think what's going on in the States, both with the Fed, and now we just had the report on our own news on the hour, although that would be a bit old, of the potential dock workers striking. There's already still a shipping issue from since COVID, right? If there's one thing you could talk about COVID, you could talk about that. But that minimum wage increase there, it's not going to affect necessarily a lot of people because not all public sector workers, it's not like they're all earning $20 an hour. I know somebody who basically said, well, at least as far as he knows, it doesn't affect him because he was actually already earning $22.50 an hour. So I don't know will they bump everybody up?
Well, no, I mean, the minimum wage is $22.50, so I don't think they want to take them outside of that, because once you come outside of I think there's a maximum range, or there's an act that they'll have to pass, so I don't want to speak in too much detail on that. But it was really to give a good feel to the people. It's an election budget, it's to make sure the public servants, they say that we are the largest employer in the country. And we know that the CPEP and the MTS and the URP is also another voting bloc, and they want to ensure their voting bloc. What we have to recognize is when he says inflation was only 0.1% this year, that's year on year, as opposed to last year. But if you go back, I believe, to 2016, our inflation, especially on food and transport, at least food, it's gone up by 19%, and I'll go up to 2022. I don't want to go beyond that because I can't speak for the certainty with 2023. And that's part of the problem. A lot of the data from CSA, I know they try their best, but a lot of data is old data, and the data is not very updated in terms of inflation rates and so on.
Here's an interesting thought. If we import a significant amount of our food, I'm not too sure if it's correct to say majority, but a significant amount, right? America's inflation rate, I guess, would be telling with regards to our food inflation rate, not so?
Well, I don't know how much we import from the United States, but you're right. A few years ago, the governor of the central bank, this current governor, when his first his position as governor before he was reappointed, I believe, he did say that we imported $5 billion worth of food. Now it's gone to $7.3 billion. And a chart was sent to me, and Trinidad and Tobago is the highest importer of food in the Caribbean, at 92.5%. So what does that say about the talk about agriculture? It's just a lot of talk, just a lot of talk. You know, I was inside there, you know, and I'm going to tell you from being inside of there, you know, you have to have a vision, and you have a strategic objective. And if I look at every measure that they have, either they have not implemented it, they have not implemented it fully, or they've been very opaque, lacking transparency on critical issues like the energy sector, and giving us details which he knows, perhaps he's waiting for the Minister of Energy to speak on it, but that is very worrying, our energy sector. But he's painting this very, very, very positive picture, and that's not the reality, you know. So when I look at all the big ticket items, even crime, what is having more cars? What's having more police officers? You're doing that for the last 10 years, and before you, yes, and you know that it's not working, you know it is not working. Why do you keep doing it?
Well, and this is one of the things, because from what
I know why they keep doing it.
From what I understand, the first part of the budget is almost like, this is to tell you what we've done. But it seems as though, okay, well, we got X% growth, we don't know what that means. This thing improved, we don't know by how much. So we got a lot of percentages without any figures. So we don't know if the figures are good or bad, if they're significant or not. That whole part there should have been to say, what's the state of the country? And it's almost like the end of year budget review before the new budget, right? Coming out of that part, was there anything that seemed significant to say that it was good or bad? Or did it just seem as though it was a lot of obfuscation? Because a lot of it seemed like that.
Well, you see, the thing about it is, and that's the reason why I probably am very jaded, you know? Because if you look at a lot of things that he said, it'd be wonderful if it happened. But if you have to judge them from the last 9 years, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So he could say anything he wants, because I have to judge you by your past performance. It's all right if you tell me. I can say a number of things. But when I will say, okay, one thing, and the other thing he did a lot of is telling us all the things the government achieved since they came into office without focusing on what happened between 2023, 2024, what were the measures that they were looking at, what were the projects, where they had reached with it, and where they expect to reach in 2024 and 2025. So some of them, I would imagine, would have been the TTRA, talking about implementing the TTRA. They're going to have problems with that. It's not just the fact that they were able, which was when I was in office, we had done, that is what the legislation did say in any event, and there's examples that you can take them out of the public service and put them in an authority as private individuals. There's case law, went all the way to the Privy Council. So that was nothing new that they learned. What I want to see is when they're going to start paying that VSEP, they owe a lot of money in VAT refunds. They owe over $1 billion to, I think, to TNTech. They owe over $100 and something million to WASA. They owe $2.5 billion in VAT refunds. Oh my God, even the central bank had to say that there's a big delay between contractors presenting their receipts and getting payment. So you see, when you tell me all this thing about digitalization and what you're going to do and what's going to happen, and I'm sorry, that's not your track record. It's not your track record.
Well, on that point, one of the introductory points in the document, right? So I believe he would have said it, or at least was supposed to have said it. I don't necessarily remember this because I'm actually beside myself reading it. Basically saying that expenditure from 2019, 50 billion, 0.8, was increased in 2025 to 59.7 billion. This is something at the start of the budget, right?
That's not what it is that correct? I know at the end, the budget is ending.
This is 2019, and not 2020.
Okay, sorry.
So he's claiming 2019, it was 50.8. We've increased government expenditure to 59.7, putting $9 billion more in the local economy.
But did you tell you what the revenue was? Did he tell you what the revenue was?
Right. To me, I'm like, the government is spending more. That seems like something that the government should just naturally come across. That's not an achievement. And yes, he did not include
tell you what the revenue
was and what the deficits to go according to that so-called growth was.
So the impression you want to gives, is all smoke and mirrors. The impression you get out of that, wow, that means it's indirectly implying that we're doing better if we could spend more. But that's in 2019, the revenue was $34.3 billion, and the deficit was 16.6, right? And in fact,
we didn't prepare this, folks. Karen was just not prepared.
Right, and the next year, the revenue was $37.12 billion, and the deficit was expenditure was 49.6. It was a negative of 12.3. The first year that we had what you'd call a balanced budget, that it wasn't in a deficit, was the year of the Ukraine war, where $88 million. That had nothing to do with us, So what I will say is this. If you are the government, it's very simple, It's just like running a business, except at a macro level. You have to generate revenue. You need the revenue. Why? Because you have expenditure. You have expenditure to pay wages and salaries, which is recurrent expenditure. You have expenditure to transfer money to statutory boards. You have expenditure, capital expenditure, which there wasn't much of that last year, the last 2023, 2024.
Yeah.
So you need to get that revenue. Where did we depend on for the revenue? Revenue is not the GDP. GDP is all the goods and services a country produces in a fiscal year. But that is not the revenue. The government taxes that, and from that revenue is able to finance all of these various ministries and all these various projects and plans that they're talking about. Where are they getting the money from? Where are they getting the revenue from? The central bank has said, and it is obvious, that we don't have the natural gas. We are 1.4 billion cubic feet short of the daily requirements of natural gas, which is 4.1 billion. Actually, we want 4.9. So where are you getting the revenue from? And one other point on that, talk about revenue.
Yeah.
Even though the manufacturing sector has added, I got this from one of the economists, 5 to 6% up to the gross domestic, how much goods and services produce. So they have performed much better, and the central bank has said that. How much revenue are you getting from the manufacturing sector, non-energy manufacturing sector? On top of that, how much are they importing in order to tin a tin of red beans, a tin of chana, a tin of corn? Because I know that I don't know where the fields are hidden, but I don't think we are producing those products, or I don't know to what extent we are producing the raw materials to can and so on. So you're using up the foreign exchange. It's just, you know, it's just a mirage.
If we were growing it, we already have concerns with regards to lower than expected rainfall and higher than expected temperatures, and what's that doing with our local agricultural produce.
But it's not any different from years before. I mean, you remember, as a minister, to be very frank with you, revenue, the energy sector was doing extraordinarily well.
Yeah.
In fact, in 2008, before they had the global financial crisis, we had a surplus of over 11 billion, a surplus of over 11 billion. So you've had agriculture has generally been given a lot of grants, given a lot of, but really has been a neglected section. And if you look at the appropriation, they appropriate about 1-point-something billion to agriculture.
Before we get there, because that's a topic in and of itself, but I want to go back to the energy situation, because of course that's one of the big things that you usually speak about, but I want to take a break. When we come back, we'll get into the estimates for the oil and gas prices, and then also go into the expectations. We have to wait for the legendary mythical dragon field and manatee to come online, and what may be the measures that the government is looking to try to bridge that gap of deficits for probably the next few years. Stay tuned to Talking Point. We'll be right back after this.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
And we're back here on Talking About WES, and of course, one of the things that is important for each budget, one of the basic foundations, is what the Ministry of Finance is going to give us the estimate for oil and gas prices, the projection for the future, in order to say this is what we expect revenue to be, this is what we expect the deficit to be. It's not necessarily guaranteed to be that. 2022 was it? We got a surprised assistance from an unfortunate source. But this year now, in an interesting turn of events, the minister is saying, well, we're going to be conservative with our estimates. Although being conservative, it's still higher than where the trends are with the prices of oil and gas. And we had Dr. Sajuan on to basically say, well, he's doing that to withdraw from the HSF. But, and Karen is next to me shaking her head. But more importantly, Karen, you were on a pre-budget show and you basically called the shot on the price of natural gas because...
I thought it was $3.50, so I'm off by 9 cents. But I did, no, seriously though, I
think the public will forgive you.
Yes, but I did say that. I said I wanted to get it before he said it, because I wanted people to understand. I understood what he's doing. You see, what he's doing now, because his TTRA, a witness statement, he wanted to justify the start of TTRA, and he's going to have trouble with that, because the Privy Council, while that was not brought to them to decide whether you could transfer persons from a public to private, which they can because there's case law on that, they did it with other things. So that was not, I mean, that was not really an issue. It's not just only the payment of VSEP, but the big point that the Privy Council brought up is the question of who is going to do the enforcement. Is it going to be the customs arms, or is it going to be those persons who are now private citizens or private employees? And there needs to be clarity. And they said even the ministry or the ministry's representative attorneys recognize, the government's attorneys recognize that. So that's going to hold them back with enforcement of that. And I will tell you, the main reason, because I passed the TTRA in the lower house, and I was in charge of that, and I had a board, so I'm not speaking out of turn. I'm not without an understanding of what the TTRA was about. The TTRA was to a large extent to deal with the drugs, the transshipment of cocaine, and clearly that was one of our main objectives. And now creating, which we never had, is the enforcement, Director General Enforcement, who is not part of the TTRA's oversight. The other Director General, they are over the oversight of the board, and they create policy, and the Director Generals carry out day-to-day transfer, hiring, and disciplining. But the only one that does not is the Director of Enforcement. That's where you wanted to get, that's where we wanted to, that's who we wanted, that department, and now it's still under the public service. So what's the point? You know, and that's not going to happen right now, because if the Privy Council brought it up, you can be sure the TTRA is not happening next year. Okay, Mr. Minister of Finance, I know you don't like to be challenged, but it has to go to the, I'm going to go to the Privy Council. And I want to see what they're going to do about it. Or you're going to have to change the law and debate it in the Parliament, and then you're going to slew. Just like how you, with the gambling control, again, it's how many years? 9 years. You know what he's saying? They're in the process and hoping for full proclamation by January 2025. Do not hold your breath. He said that same thing so many times.
In the budget.
Oh, yeah, he said that. He said that, but he said they're going through a process, and they want to strengthen it, and the relationship with the global entities and FIU, and whatever he said. Don't hold your breath. Property tax, in the Valuation Amendment Act, it said that it's only when they have done more than 50% of residential properties that the valuation division could send the real rule to the minister, and the minister may then start the assessment. Well, I understand the minister and the ministry said of 400,000 residential properties at the time, 175,000 had been assessed, and there's still issues with that. So you didn't meet the 50% mark. You didn't set the tribunal. You said that you're not going to have the tax appeal board. It's going to be tribunal. Where's the tribunal? Another thing too, you always, under the land and building and under the municipal corporation, there was always a time in the year that you could go and inspect the books. So you could see if your evaluation is not that you try to muck anybody else's business, but you want to show equity. I do not think that is part of their plan. That is not part of their plan. Everything is obfuscation. Everything is the procurement legislation. Just what the JCC had to take them and say, listen, you're supposed to have sent a report to Parliament last year about the work of the procurement. Under the legislation, it requires that. They didn't do it, but under the pressure from JCC, they finally did it. And just what the former procurement regulator said, there is at least a hemorrhaging of over 5 billion. The new regulator says it's about 5.8 billion because of bribery, bid rigging, etc. I mean, and also in terms of compliance by state enterprises, about 30-something% compliance.
I would just like to point out that there's a bit of irony, and I think to some extent it's not as though this has a direct relation, but the deficit is about 5 billion. So now you need to wonder.
You mean the projected deficit? The projected deficit. Please do not say the deficit.
Sorry.
Because
well, the past deficit was
9. It's no.
Oh, it's 9.
It's no 9. It was supposed to be 4.1.
Yes.
But now it's all, he had to take out money out of the consolidated fund of 2.3 billion. And we have to wait until we get the Auditor General's report for last year. But it is, according to what I've read, I think even from the central bank, please, if I'm not right, I'm not right, but I believe even the central bank, it's 9.6 billion is the deficit for this last year. So he can tell you anything.
But my point is the projected deficit is 5 billion.
Yes.
And the report is saying we're hemorrhaging over 5 billion.
And pigs can fly.
I would just like to, I'm wondering if the common man in the street read a bit into this. This is an obvious question that most laymen would ask. Well, why we have a deficit when we hemorrhaging over $5 billion? I mean, that means that the problem potentially can be fixed if we just did the work properly. What you have to do is generate revenue. That's what you have to do. If you're the government, your money is, there's not the private sector pays taxes, and that's one of the things they're seeing. Now they're seeing is about 10, if the TTR is, when it does start up, you're looking at about $10 billion that is not being paid. And it's not the nuts man. I think that's not so. It's not going to be the nuts man, because he's not making enough money to qualify to pay
on,
large taxes
in that tax bracket, right? So that I think what they're going after is the number of companies who they've given them a pass for the last 10 years. Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. That's what I will say.
So with regards to revenue, because
don't hold your breath.
Oil revenue being expected to be 14.174 billion, non-oil revenue expected to be 35.039 billion, and capital revenue to be 4.001 billion. Maybe more on that in a bit. Is that a sign that, look, it seems as though the oil revenue growth is going to be stunted for a couple of years, or the energy sector growth, and we should be looking towards more of the non-oil revenue part of the equation? But like you mentioned before with agriculture, he said something about agriculture and food security being important, right? But then when you look at the allocation, agriculture got a reduction in allocation. Now, technically said that they're also going to invest in infrastructure to help agriculture and farming, right? But when you look at the transport and the infrastructure allocations, there's no increase compared to what they had for similar. They changed some of the allocations, classifications. There was no increase in the, let me get the correct one, in the, works and transport allocation. It's around $3-something billion. So I'm not necessarily seeing an increase to accomplish these things. I'm seeing a decrease similar to national security. But with regards to the economy, I mean, is it time to look at that non-oil revenues part of it and say, listen, this is the future, right? This has to be the future, because we all, I've said it recently, we're living in the time of when it's running out, not if. 20 years ago it was an if. It is a one day it will happen. We've reached the start of the one day. It then actually is not totally over, but the one day is basically on the horizon. We could see it. It's not just a rhetorical thought for the next generation to have to worry about.
But it's there already. I mean, if you're looking at LNG, according to the data, they're producing at 60% of capacity. If you look at the downstream industries, which is where the real revenue can be generated.
They switched over those plants recently.
Right, Titan and Atlas. And what does that mean? Atlas is smaller than Titan. And they already said, unless they change their mind, but they said that by the end of the year, they will be producing 1 million tons less of methanol. I think one of the petrochemical products has gone up in price. I can't remember which one it is, whether it's urea or ammonia. Might be ammonia. But a lot of them, when I looked at the central bank data that was available for inspection up to July, a monetary report, and most of the petrochemicals from 2022 to today have substantially decreased. I think it's only one of them, and I wrote it down somewhere, but I can't remember. But let's put it down simply. This is a simple thing. You are running the government, and you have to generate revenue. Where are you going to get your revenue from? So we have always, forget about oil, because the oil now, that's another, when I say forget about oil, yes, will give us some revenue from the supplemental petroleum tax, the revenues, whatever taxes that apply to petroleum under the Petroleum Act. That is so, but we're not producing much. And in fact, we are producing less than we used to produce. And that's why we are really a natural gas economy. And we have been, I think since 2019, I don't want to misquote the Prime Minister, but I'm pretty certain the Prime Minister said that we should have about 4.1 billion cubic feet per day, but we are 1.4 less than what we require, which is why LNG is not producing at full capacity. That's why a lot of the companies in the petrochemicals shut down, and I have been told that many of them are not going to be returning. And we are looking at a situation, where is the government going to get the revenue from? So even if you look at the manufacturing sector, you know, it's just a question that there's a lot of opaqueness and a lack of obfuscation, if for want of a better word, in terms of how the government is going to realize the revenue. Why don't you say that you're using the HSF? That's why I said it's 350, you know. I said it was 350 because Moody's already downgraded us. Standard & Poor's said, he said it in his own witness statement, he said, Standard & Poor's said that if you keep on running all these deficits like this, we are just below junk bond status. So you know
just above.
Just above, sorry, just
like
above.
The
so
last
what?
Step.
Yeah. So next thing is junk bond, and they gave him. He said he got a warning. So the fact that he put so much pressure on the property tax, which was so unfair. How could you tell people that the general time frame within which you know how much your property tax is going to be is about a year before, but you change it and expect me to get a notice of assessment last week and run by September the 15th to pay it. He knew that I think I said it on this show already. I said that he put the September 30th because that was the end of the fiscal year.
Yes.
And he knew that he was going to have to give more time, because if that went to the Privy Council, just like they lost with the local government matter, they would have lost with that. It's because he doesn't have money.
They threatened penalties if you didn't pay by then, but they couldn't enforce it.
And they couldn't. And listen, that is an indication to me of the desperation of this government.
Well, speaking
That's
about
what
revenue,
I believe.
One of the interesting things to me was the special projects that came right after the allocation. Now, there are a couple of tourism projects where it doesn't say how much money they're looking to spend or who will finance that. Maybe we'll get into that later. But there were three things, right? Divestment of Magdalena, which technically they have mentioned a while ago. So this was
Nobody wants it.
Nobody, right? Then divestment of Clico, right? And the sale of the refinery. Now, of those three things, I think the sale of the refinery, and as you rightfully just said, Magdalena, those are not necessarily going to be easy to sell. And in fact,
they have somebody already in mind. Let me tell you, I want to take, you see how I say about the 350?
Yes.
See how I say about the 350? And the reason I said, by the way, about the 350, because in my respectful opinion, the minister knows that he cannot keep borrowing on the international market, because all those bonds that he's borrowing comes with a price, and you have to pay it back in US dollars. We are at 74% for every dollar in GDP. That is where our debt has reached. So what he has been doing, I added up the numbers. The former Prime Minister, Kamala Bissessar, was not wrong when she said they never withdrew any money out of the HSF. But from 2016, when this government came into office, from 2016 and 2023, taking into account 2021 and 2020 and 2021, which was COVID years. But even before that, it was a huge number. In 2016, 375.5 is in US dollars, 375 million. 2017, 252 million. 2023, 160 million. And in December 2023, when nobody knew, he also withdrew, I didn't write down the figure right here, but in all, it comes up to, in TT, if you use 670 as your conversion rate, between 2016 and 2023, they have withdrawn 18 billion TT out of HSF, because HSF is an investment fund.
Which is a little under 3 billion.
I just want to say this too. You at Williams, I was so concerned about the amount of money that was being withdrawn from the HSF. I actually had written it down somewhere in the chairman's forward. He said if we continue at this rate of using the HSF as if it is a private banking thing that you could use it to finance your recurrent expenditure, which is what it's being used to largely. Says if we continue to do that, we will leave nothing for our children and grandchildren. He said that.
Because I said this over the course of the budget, right? When an economy has no growth, that's a problem because inflation is going to continue and you're going to essentially get left behind. It's the same thing for the HSF. The Minister of Finance has basically touted the fact that, we've gotten back to 6 billion, we've gotten back to 5-point-something billion, more than once over the last few years, right? It's almost like an annual thing where he'll say, we're back to where we were in 2015.
Never be so, though.
But the problem is, if the HSF is not growing, at some point, if it stays at 6 billion, if you always get it back to 6 billion, it won't be long before the value of that is going to be diminished. It's not going to be the same thing.
It's not that, I think the argument would be better put that if you stop taking money out of the HSF, the HSF would be 9 billion because the HSF is an investment vehicle.
In fact, it might even be more than 9 because of compounding interest.
That's what I'm saying. So you telling me it's 6 billion. The only reason it's 6 billion because it's an investment vehicle and they do invest well. But if you stop taking money up to the tune of 18 billion TT dollars between in about 6 or 7 years, that HSF, you wouldn't be able to boast about the 6 billion. It probably would be about 10, 15 billion now.
So back to the refinery, Magdalena, and the
Well, I know they already knew they want to give it to. That's what I think.
Which one is this, Magdalena or the refinery? The
refinery, yeah.
Right.
They already bad talking Nigeria. They bad talking Jindial to get India out. They're trying to get Nigeria out. So now we have to deal with the USA and the local consortium. I want to know who the local consortium is. I want to go behind the company name, to know the names of the people who are behind it.
I tried looking it up, and I couldn't, because he said the 3 names of the companies under, right?
I want to
share. But I couldn't even find a proper source to then tell me, because I didn't know what the spelling, I wasn't sure about the name of the third one. So I was trying to just, which company is this, right? And I couldn't, to be fair, there's one friend of the Prime Minister whose own
It's not
group
him.
of I know it's not him, but what I'm saying is, it's not easy to find sources of information. It's almost as though they don't want to put things on the record.
They don't want.
Well,
they don't. Listen, I
was being generous, Karen.
Okay, let me just tell you. I already see how I told you the 350.
Yes.
Why you think I said the 350? Is because I've been in government and I understood what this minister is doing. And I'm telling you, with the refinery, they've started already with bad talking Nigeria, so take Nigeria out. Jindial, well, I think kind of did it himself, right?
Yes.
So he was, he did it himself.
I found he should have expected some kind
so he
of
was,
pushback.
I mean,
I don't know. I actually don't think he was serious, right?
But I think the Nigeria thing is sounding a little shaky. Now they have to go after the USA. They have to dig up dirt on them. But I want to know who are the shareholders of the local consortium, because I can bet my last dollar who they are, and who people told me, I would tell you, said, you know what, they're closing it down to give it to who they want, and it is going to be a local company. I will not be, and if they don't do it, it's probably because I've said this on air, but I was in government.
No.
And I'm telling you something, there is definitely, the media is being utilized to put out there that the other 2 competitors, the other one USA, they're going to dig up something about them, you're going to read about them. And so that's going to end up with this one. But I want to know who it is. I don't want to know the name of the company. I want to know who is behind the company, because I have a feeling it's the same people who own about 95% of this country.
I just find it interesting that
I might be wrong.
It then brings a question, the whole process of of this new rounds of who are the preferred bidders from 10 to 3. And
why did you close it down? And why you close it down?
More important, but not just that. Where's the procurement regulator in this process?
That's true.
Right? Sale of assets is one of the things under the purview of the procurement regulator. Exactly where's, because Scotiabank apparently did this. I'm like, wait, hold on. So we have a whole set of legislation to then pay a private-owned bank, whoever, right? international but private, to undergo this process, and then to undermine some of the preferred, the top three. The whole thing just
smacks.
But with that said, let's just assume they sell all three, right?
Sell all three what?
The Clico shares, Magdalena, and the refinery, right?
They're not so worried about that hotel, though.
Right, but my point
And by
is,
the way, sorry, I just have to tell you, the average CSO arrivals in Trinidad for how many years going back is about 35 to 40,000, but you build an airport to accommodate 3 million people. Why would you do that?
and a hotel to house
Why?
these mythical tourists, but we don't have, and the reason why I say that, and Slim Richards agreed with me, we don't have the other things that makes a tourism industry, like marketing, right?
How about an appropriation? I look for tourism. Did you find tourism there?
Nope.
There we go. And you know what?
And listen, if you could put Ministry of Housing 750 million, you could put Ministry of Tourism 600 million. That's Barbados marketing budget. One would think we're behind. We should potentially consider spending as much as they spend.
But you remember the minister said we're going to do a targeted, branded approach to tourism, and then he talked all about the airport for 3 million people, these mythical 3 million guests that are coming, talking about all these aeroplanes and so on. How about telling us what it is we're selling as a tourism product?
Yes.
I mean, I find it difficult to...
Now, let's just say these sales, right, will help deal with the deficit for a year or two. My question is...
Let's say the manufacturer...
the refinery and all that, right? My concern is, they're still assuming Dragon gas is coming down the pipe. What happens?
Yes.
What happens if reality means that, yeah, we could get some capital sales, similar to the Proman deal, right? These are one-time things. Once you sell the Clico shares, they're
Why
sold.
did they do that?
Right?
I don't understand why they sold the Proman shares. There's something more. Listen, I told you already. The negative of me being here is I have been in government.
Well, so with regards to the
feel that there's something behind that, because I was one of the witnesses. So I'm not removed from it. When we challenged the sale of Clico to Proman, sale of Proman shares by Clico to Proman when they had the controlling shares.
Yeah.
And I said at the beginning, I said this is something about this not adding up. I do not feel that it is going to be to our benefit.
Is there any thought that perhaps they also have a preferred bidder for the Clico shares as well?
Absolutely. And listen, if we think that, let me just say this. It's not because we bad-mouthing the government and all those who want that. If you have the best predictor is past relevant behavior, they have done everything to make us talk as how we are talking. Did they mention anything about the Statistical Institute? Did they mention anything about the Toko port? Not a mention. Did he say with the energy sector? What is he talking about with OFAC? The reason why, and I've said it on this show already, the reason why they could, Shell could put a final investment decision with Manatee. And then they talk about 10 trillion cubic feet law in Manatee. 70% or more of that natural gas is in Venezuelan waters. We have 2.7%, I think, I don't want to get it wrong, it's about 20% in our waters. So that was not a difficult thing for Shell to do because you're not involving America and Venezuela, right? But Dragonfield is in Venezuelan waters. Do you realize that Shell has not signed a final investment decision on that? What about the solar farm that was supposed to come in place with Shell since 2018? Where has that materialized? Don't you understand that all I talk about OFAC is not... Shell asked for 15 years from OFAC in order to be able to make an investment in Dragonfield. They did not get it and they did not invest. How are we getting the natural gas if America has taken a position of sanctions against Venezuela, and even more so with the so-called the person I think that won the election, Gonzalez, had to flee to Spain after signing. He was coerced into saying that Maduro won. I'm not getting into their politics, right? All I'm saying is I cannot see, based on everything that is being shown to us, and if there's something we don't know and he can't say, well, say that. But OFAC, based on OFAC conditions, I cannot see Shell or BPTT or any of the international agencies, as they have indicated, having anything to do with Dragon Field, Lauren, anything in the Venezuelan waters, and those that are not in the Venezuelan waters. I read, I think, from the Ministry of Energy, I might be wrong, but it said initially the amount of gas you will get from the Dragon Field, if it were ever to come on board, was going to be in the region of about 150 cubic feet per day. And eventually, they didn't give you a date, you'd get 350, and 300 of it would go to LNG and 50 to the downstream. When, is that not even happening? The Dragon Field not happening. The Lauren not happening. The other ones that they're talking about is, you know, you're talking about 2028. So where's the revenue? Where is the revenue?
So basically, they're talking about selling things, and last year, they did a loan. So I'm just seeing the
They said more than one loan. The last loan was 750 million.
Right, the last one, right? The foreign brought, right?
No, there were two loans they took out, but the last, no, there were.
Oh, there were two loans last year? Okay.
There were more than one.
But they used loans to finance for last year.
For recurrent expenditure.
Now they're talking about well, sale of assets, right?
Okay, see where they reach?
So I'm thinking, I don't know if this is going to totally bridge the deficits before the mythical gas comes online, and the mythical gas potentially is not going to come online, right, for all of the reasons you outlined. So should we be looking at what else could they sell off? Like this, I mean, we already sold the slips in Heathrow years ago for Lord only knows what reason, right? What other assets could we get? What other assets do we have that apparently is now all of a sudden expendable, or how many loans could we take?
See, I don't know if people understand what we're trying to say, and I really, whether whoever was in government, I think I would say the same thing, you know? I believe I would. The thing about it is the government is put there to generate revenue to be able to give us a good standard of living. Our national security is in trouble. I mean, look at them. They mention the transnational corporation and they leave it alone. They talk about how much new cars, how many they, but they very well know what's the cause of our major cause of the crime. What is the cause? And they don't talk about it, you know. I wonder why. I wonder why they don't talk about it. But what I'm saying is, the government is there to generate revenue. If you realize that we are going to be in a difficult position, I don't know for how long, with the natural gas, and you have Ghana with 17 trillion cubic feet, and they're talking about putting up an LNG facility with Exxon-Mobil. That is also in the news, 17 trillion cubic feet, as opposed to 4.3 trillion in Dragon Field. But if you're really serious about it, do like so many other countries, do like Dubai, do like Mauritius, do like so many other countries that have had to do it. Pivot to other revenue streams that will really help to generate the revenue that you require. And two obvious ones are the agro and agro. You're talking farm to table. How much money you put for agriculture? What are you going to do with that?
Yeah, a few hundred million less.
Yeah, and listen, the cocoa for export, because I read the 2023 economic review, and they said cocoa declined by 90%. Cocoa for export declined by 90%. How are we going to have faith in what you're saying? I think the issue here really is that there is a lack of, there's not enough transparency in what the government says and does, and there is a lack of letting us know exactly where we are generating our revenue from. Let us know the truth. Tell us the truth, you know, and start looking at other ways to generate revenue. The cultural tourism, but of course you can't really do that if you don't deal with the crime properly. Agro and agro-industry, there's a lot of opportunities there.
Case in point, because one of the things that I found very curious with regards to national security, we're going to buy more boats, we're going to buy more cars, you're going to have more officers. All of this is going to cost money. The more officers are going to be reoccurring salaries, not a one-time expenditure. Then on top of that, we're going to fix the damaged vessels. That, I believe, was touted. One of the speakers on budget night touted the fact that the minister, brought up the fact that the minister touted, we have 12 damaged vessels or something along those lines, right? Available to patrol our borders. And then, of course, we had the Joint Select Committee meeting where the Chief of the Defense Force said everything's down because of a shipping issue, right? So the point is...
That's not all he said. That's not all he said. When Mr. Daniel, at the head of the Coast Guard, a Joint Select Committee, at the time he spoke, he said one hostile ship that they had bought was down. When we learned recently that both of them are down. Of the OPVs, 4 out of 14 are operational. Also, the Air Guard, in other words, you're buying more boats and things in order for them to not be maintained, but you want to tell the people you're doing something. But just look at what you've done with the OPVs. Look what the Australia just bought those ships. Both of them are down. What about the, there are 123, I think, there was a report in one of the newspapers, a very detailed report, that there are 120 possible inlets for
illegal smuggling.
Right?
Yeah, because it just takes a pure run.
Right. And you're talking about buying more. Why are you buying more when you're not maintaining what you have? And then you don't, the scanners, 4 out of the 5 scanners not working.
But Karen, here's the real thing. They want to buy more, and then they want to claim that they're going to get... They're going to get the current boats, they're going to get back the maintenance or restore them to operation, right? Here's the thing, though. They decreased national security by 800 million. The largest decrease. They're going to be spending more. Well, they say they're going to be buying more stuff, right? More body cams, right? One would hope they would get more tablets so that all police officers would have one available in order to issue traffic violation tickets, because they don't all have them, and that's something that technically has been out in the sphere, I believe, by Inspector Alexander from Beyond the Tape, I think, or one of the media ambassadors, so I could say it freely without giving away any of the secrets, right? I didn't want to say it publicly when I learned about it, because I didn't want people to be wise about it, but it's out there. The fact of the matter is we don't have enough devices just to issue tickets, right? So they dropped the allocation, and yet crime, same thing like tourism, same thing like agriculture, crime is one of the things, right, that's important. We recognize. He said a lot of beautiful words about the difficulty and wonderful sentiments. Oh, by the way, we're decreasing the allocation, right? We're decreasing the allocation. So,
I think because they know that the sovereign, Standard & Poor's and Moody's are looking at what we're doing. I think they've gotten a warning from them. So I think what he intends to do...
So you spend less on national security?
So no, what I think he intends to do, just like one of your guests, I had thought about that. So you know what he's going to do? You know, he's going to decide, because he can't go and borrow too much more in the bond market, because the rate of interest, the coupon rate is going to go up. It's already going up. You're just below jump bond status. And these Standard & Poor's and all of these international rating agencies are looking on. So he's just going to go into this HSF and get his money out to the HSF. So he doesn't even, not too concerned. If he has to put money in the HSF, that doesn't matter to him, because he made an amendment to the Act which allows him to take out of the HSF 3 new conditions. One, which I understand clearly, which is the contagious disease as defined by the Public Health Ordinance. That's understandable. If there is it's not just flood, but a natural disaster, and that's another reason. And then he gave a 3rd reason where there's a precipitous decline in the revenue position. And he also amended it to allow them to take out as much as 1.5 billion US per year. So he already has it worked out that that HSF is not a heritage, the heritage component. I don't think we need to look at that. He is looking at that as the way in which he will be able to have access to money to pay recurrent expenditure without issuing more debt, because the international agencies are looking at the debt that we are carrying and the purpose of which we are carrying. We are carrying it to pay recurrent expenditure. And just to be clear, when they use the word transfer and subsidies, I went to the 2020 review, and I actually spoke to some economists, and they told me subsidies only make up about 1%. You must go and look at it. It only makes up 1%. Most of it is transfers to households. And of the recurrent expenditure, which comes up to nearly about 78%, of that, 44% is transfers to households, which is your disability grant and the senior citizens grant, those grants, food grants, right? That is what it is. But a large percentage goes to state and state enterprises, like the public utilities, right, which they're owing a lot of money, to TNTech, which are owing a lot of money, and also to a small amount to NGOs. So we have to be careful when we use the word transfer and subsidies. I know it's used interchangeably, and when we talk about transfers to households, it makes up, I would think, 1/3 of the recurrent expenditure. A lot of it goes to state enterprises, and they are owed a lot of money. And they owe a lot of money in bonds. That's why I think one of the economists talked, I could say it because it was published, and it was a very good idea, but they won't ever do that. He's saying, instead of this VAT refund, you see, because what they do, I know that as a fact, that you have to pay the VAT, but to get a refund, you're waiting 2, 3, 4 years down the line to get your refund.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So obviously that's a way of government delaying payment.
Yes.
Right? So he said, get rid of the refund, VAT refund, and charge a sales tax. So the sales tax directly goes to the government. You have nothing to pay anybody. You're getting the 6% sales tax on your purchase, and there's nobody to repay. So when they charge you, like in the United States, so when they charge you for an item, you pay 6% sales tax, and that 6% sales tax goes to the government. You don't get back anything.
Right. So
there's no refund. This whole issue of refund comes to an end, which cripples a lot of the smaller companies, especially the small and the micro companies. So I just want to say that, unfortunately, Minister, you know, it just, I'm waiting for next year, if this government is still in the government of the country, to see where we have reached with the fiscal deficit, where we have reached with the revenue position, and where we have reached with the implementation of a number of the projects that you said that we were implementing. And it's a very sad thing that you are relying on revenue to be generated by selling off assets of companies, which you could have tried to save, because by saving it, it would have meant so much to the former employees and to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But your thing of generating revenue, capital revenue, is a sell of assets belonging to formerly a private company. And I think someone said it in today's papers, and people ask, and we all ask, just give us an account of how much money you have spent, because you're not telling me Angostura is not making money. So you can't be just telling me how much you spend. Now you're saying it's 13 billion. Where are you getting them figures from? Where are you getting these figures from? Why aren't we seeing an audited account of CLICO, what has been sold, what we have gotten back? Angostura is obviously making a lot of money. There are a lot of malls that, then, you know, account to us, let us know where the money is coming from.
And I guess what makes it worse is what happened with the Auditor General's report. Because she is the one that's right. I'm auditing you. I actually have the figures to put out to the public. And basically she's saying, look, I can't account with proper auditing standards and practices. Not to say that it's not there or it is there or whatever. She's just saying my job is to account for things, and I can't account for at least $2 billion. And again, when we have these deficits
more than $2 billion
that start at $4 to $5 billion and work its way up depending on how the year goes, this is not small money now we're talking about. And this just adds to the fact that, look, the obfuscation, it's compounded by so many levels, and that's why when he gives whatever figures he does give, there's no context for it.
And not all that, just saying, you know, there's a lack of transparency. I really have to say that. And when, as you mentioned, the Auditor General, I think that matter is coming up for hearing in the Privy Council in November. The setting up of that Harris, I mean, nothing against Justice Harris, by the way, but setting up that committee, almost as if you are questioning the bona fides, that's how it comes across, of the Auditor General, when the Constitution itself says that no person or authority shall direct the Auditor General, because the Auditor General is protecting you and me from potential corruption by any government, and yet you're making her into be the bad guy in this situation. So I'm hopeful. I would like to know what the Privy Council will be saying on that judicial review application, and the other application she's also making, that the Attorney General, she has had to foot, except for the first, I think first opinion, they told them they would pay for that, but for her to defend herself against these attacks, that she may look at it, and it seems so, that the Attorney General apparently will not, my understanding, foot those bills. I would like to see what's going to happen at the Privy Council level. It's going to be very telling. I don't know what the outcome will be. I could put a guess, but I put a guess on it because, and you're looking at also this, very important too, is the financing by campaign financing legislation. It's been around so many years, and they have done nothing about it. What about and setting up a registry for a special registrar for that purpose?
The reason why Karen brings this up, and I think to kind of tie it up together, although there's more that I want to say, a lot of the things that this administration has done over the last 10 years, you could speak to it because it was basically on the table by the cabinet that you were part of.
That is
and
correct.
For a lot of the financial stuff, you had your hand in it, if not were the point person for it. And I think when you look at it holistically, the budget, where's the vision? Besides, as a central bank economist said, it's a whole strain budget, which is another way to kind of say what I've been trying to say for the last few days. It is a cost control budget. There's no real vision outside of that, right? There's no plan to improve. There's just whole strain, let's cool on. There's no vision. And when you look at the legislation, it's essentially inherited initiatives that they're saying, well, we'll implement it, but they either they're not implementing it, and yes, to some degree it's the opposition, but no, I would say it's still their responsibility at the end of the day that they were voted in for a reason. There's no vision from the legislation that's original to them. There's seemingly no vision in the budget.
It doesn't have to be new if it's good. What you have to do is implement.
But then how, you see, you could say what the vision was for the legislation, how it all tied together.
Right.
They don't even have that. They're just like, well, we have a thing and we have a next thing, and oh, look at the things we have.
Yes.
And then now, procurement is not really doing anything.
Well, what you have said is that about only 34% of the state-owned enterprises, that's who it applies to, is public procurement, they're not private.
Yes.
Right? So it's the same, many of them have not complied. And then she's saying she's gotten reports of, we're not saying it has happened, but equivalent of 5.8 billion. And then you remember the contract with the Chinese that they had to scrap?
Yes.
Because of the request, when Mr. NH came out and said, well, I don't know,
the irony.
Wait, no, he said, I don't know, But I thought the request for proposal, it was 60-40, so and so. All of a sudden, they scrap it. No more argument about that. What do you think about that?
I think the argument was, well, nobody made an official complaint. And as soon as an official complaint came...
No, not only that. As soon as it came from Mr. Elias...
Well, there you go.
Because they knew Mr. Elias knew what he understood.
I'm pretty sure they figured out, well, it looks like he ain't backing down.
And not only that, what about the 5,500 houses that they had to scrap that when the Prime Minister was Minister of Housing and signed the...
No, well, Trash Trail currently, half of that is down the tubes. Over half of that has to be scrapped.
Do you understand why we have little confidence? The murder rate is higher. At least I read it the other day. It's about over 576 murders now, and they compared it a few weeks.
It's 470, but I think people are basically still expecting it to reach close, if not surpass 600.
Okay, well, let me correct
it was 470 maybe like a week ago.
Yes, that's true.
I can't keep up.
Right,
It might be 480 today.
Okay, this is thank you for correcting me. What I think they said, as of September last year, compared to this year,
yes,
there are over 30-something more murders this year than last year. So much. Why do you think we have no confidence in you? Why? You give us every reason.
I want to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines. Stay tuned. Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. You don't need, we can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and, I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
let's go to the last part.
And we're back here talking about the WSN. Kindness to share with me, Sean Michael Small, and we have our first caller from Diego Martin. Just a reminder, when you're talking to us on the phone, mute your television. Don't listen to your television. It's on a delay. It has confused callers in the past. Listen through your phone. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Michael Small and the Honorable Ex-Minister of Finance, Karen Nunes.
Like you was waiting to say that after that budget.
Okay, listen to this. Mrs. Teixeira, they tried a very, very long time yesterday on another radio station. And I believe the government damaging the response on these talk shows to basically hear what people have to say. Because these talk shows like this give me an opportunity. I ain't going on no platform to say my piece. But I think it was deliberate yesterday. And thanks for enhancing the ship rider to fight crime. We could save a lot of money. But that we want to do at the border bridge around Trinidad.
Caller, you need to repeat what you said. You're breaking up.
Boats all around. Yeah. That's what I tell. You all hearing me or?
Yeah, you're coming and going. I don't know if you could call back.
I will try the other line. As I was telling you all this morning, something is wrong with the communication. Is it done? I'll come back.
Yes. We not to go into details, but we wanted the same thing after yesterday, but I'll leave that there. We do have a caller, though, that is on the other line, so we'll take that caller now. Tunapuna, good morning. You're on the air?
Hello, good morning to the panel.
Morning.
Miss Karen Nunes and Sean. I would like to say something which is a big problem with this taxes that we have to pay for the property. Right? We followed everything up on the first phase, everything we did correct. When time come to pay and the papers came out, the property, we have two properties belongs to two different persons in the same land. And what happened, they mixed up the names and the numbers, and what they did, they put it in one person's name, the other person's property. How will a person feel? If I own a house and somebody else it is given over to with the number and the information. How will you pay a bill like that? How? I want to know how qualified are those people who are working now in the system with the tax collecting system? How qualified are those? Because they're supposed to know to do the correct thing. They mixed it up, and now we can't pay the bill.
Well, I just think that we're going to tune who is it?
We have San Fernando after.
All I'll just say is the minister is not concerned about that. He needs revenue, and he'll sort that out later on. That's my political and former position. I think that's what he's most concerned about.
No, too many times, no one is putting any sort of care with regards to the implementation, with regards to training, with regards to making sure
they want the revenue.
That the common man is not stressed because we don't know what we're doing. They don't care about your stress. There's too many people do not care that the citizens have to be stressed out because nobody knows what to tell them. Nobody knows what the proper procedure is. And you're running around trying to find somebody that might know one part here and one part there to piece it together yourself.
All they want is the revenue. That's what they want.
Right?
Because things are bad.
And to some extent, I think this is where accountability, even in the public service on job performance, is at times lacking. Not completely. There are good public servants. I will always say that. Like there are good police officers. Not all police officers are bad. But
excuse me, what happened?
Yeah.
How can we pay the bill without our name not on it? The name mixed up and what?
But you have an objection.
One person, another person's name.
Yeah,
how did they do that? How can we go now and pay? That will register now, right?
You probably, caller, you might probably have to object it if the error is so large that you can't pay anyway. Because it could have been possible for you to pay and then give an objection. But in this case, maybe you have to give an objection up front, which I understand has to be done online. So I can't necessarily talk you or describe that process with you on air, right?
Yeah, but I'm a senior citizen. I don't have much technology and computerized, you know.
Yes.
At 35 years old, I wasn't trained in computer and whatnot, that I could go online and all these things. They don't cater for us because they don't like senior citizens in this government. For 9 years, they never give them one black cent. If they give them 5 cent increase, we would have said, oh, they care for us, thing hard and thing bad. But the way they treat us, like as soon as they get old, they just dump in the garbage. That is how they treat us. And now today, look, they're putting me under so much stress with this tax paying. I don't mind paying my tax, but oh God, do it right. When you do these kind of things, they're affecting us psychologically because we don't know what to do. We're willing to pay the tax, but how can I go and pay it in somebody else's name?
Caller, thank you for that, but we do have another caller waiting. So thanks for that call.
And we do appreciate
digitization and the challenges for the population. That was one of the things that some other analysts brought up. After, right? The fact that they're going full steam ahead, but we're not ready for it. San Fernando on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Good morning, Sean.
Morning.
Good morning, Karen. Karen, let me say, I sat down and tried to listen to most of that budget. Disappointing. But let me just say these things quickly. The consortium that you all are talking about for putting the bid, the local consortium for the refinery. One of them has a large enterprise in Point Resource. Let me just say that to you, all right? I'm not asking, I'm telling you all. As one. Secondly, I listened to a discourse between the Minister of Local Government and Dave Tanku after a proposed budget conversation. You hear me, Sean?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Yes, a post-budget conversation. And where Dave Tanku said to the Minister that the valuation, property tax valuation, was the annual rental value is a fictitious figure, which the Minister admitted. But one of the most important things that went on in that discourse between two of them, the Minister actually put a figure out there for properties that were valued already. And it was even less than the 175,000, Karen. I think he said 163 or something like that. So it tells me that they know that they haven't reached 50% of the road for the residential properties. That being said, the diversification part of it, there are some low-hanging fruit for diversification in this country, and I can't understand why they're not going after it. Agriculture is one. And this issue of 20, that thing they put out there, 20, what do you call it, 25, to reduce the food import bill by 25% by 2025? That's not happening.
Yeah.
And you realize you haven't heard anything about this thing where the boats could go to Guyana, between Guyana and Barbados and Trinidad. You realize that's dead. And that was just old talk. Now, the ship repair business, I am not understanding if it is that you all cannot work out the issue with the Chinese, with respect to the to that library dry docking facility that you were supposed to do, then put back some money into purchasing a new floating dock for Carry Dock and get Carry Dock up and running to its fullest potential. That is money that we are just losing to Suriname and even St. Vincent, where they are doing ship repairs in St. Vincent as well. We are losing money to those people. That is a low-hanging fruit there that we can enhance and improve employment and try to diversify the economy. The last thing, Sean, is the tourism. You had a guest on yesterday from Tobago, and he had to say some things about. I wouldn't go into him and the dispute resolution and the money that Tobago wants. Just to say that we are continuing to miss the boat with this tourism package that we have. We still continue to. One of the things that was instructive that the minister said, that finance minister said, I was surprised that the under the repair assistance for small hotels up to 50 rooms, 1 to 5 and then or 1 to 10 and then 11 to 50. I was surprised that facility was so poorly, according to him, based on the numbers, so poorly subscribed. I was surprised that a lot more people, so because it is a chicken and egg situation with the tourism. You have to have the rooms. You want upgraded rooms, but then the people who have the rooms looking at the traffic. So I understand that, but that is another low-hanging fruit that I think we are not putting enough emphasis on. Because here, Tobago, the bulk of Tobago tourists are local, are from Trinidad.
Yep.
That is what he said yesterday.
Yep.
It is shocking that there's not more, that nothing else is going on thank God the Trinidadians are going to Tobago and propping up the tourism industry in Tobago. I wish that people could put away the animosities, and the THA and the Trinidad the tourism agency in Trinidad can work together to build this tourism package. I can't understand this at all. But Karen, that's all I have to say, because you said all and more that was on my mind. Have a good day, folks.
Yeah.
Thank you, caller.
We have a caller?
No, I don't think we have another caller. No, yes, we do. Digger Martin. We have Digger Martin back.
I'm back inside on
Yes.
the other line, and hopefully you all will hear me clearly now.
So far, yes.
All right, beautiful. I want to grade the minister using the approach that a CSEC examiner will use. I've given him a grade 1.5, and the 1.5 is basically attempting to portray a picture of the economy. He had a lot of words, a lot of time, which is outside the remit of what it's supposed to be. When you have an essay, they tell you 500 words, and every time you go after that, you lose marks. So that alone, and in terms of critical information, zero. So really, he has not said anything. And there's a lot of people who would go into the exam and write a lot of stuff and they come out feeling good. And when they get the results, they get something they deserve. For example, you say 200 roads. Tell me that in meters now. I go know if you're lying. Because 200 roads could be all kind of back road. For example, I'm giving you 2 case in point. The priority bus route needs significant repair. The Uriah Butler Highway needs significant repair. They're in almost a state of disrepair. And that added to this frustration. But I come into my pet subject. And I want people, and that is security, it's going to be about 630 murders. And I want people to look at the Joint Select Committee on the day of policing and understand what they said. They said the GEB. They said the special branch. They said a lot of the senior police officers are reticence with respect to not being forthright with the investigation. They said a Roger Alexander. They said a Joan Archie. They said, and when I said the special branch, you know who was the head of the special branch at that point in time? Take a guess. La Christopher. I want everybody to go back to that to see where the police service has collapsed. Because the people who align themselves with a particular political party is in the hierarchy of the police service. 200 cars will not help the police service. We want 150 intelligent officers, basically more brains than bronze, to drive intelligence. Intelligence transferred into proper information to have the prosecution. For example, that fella they call the TV host, he was before the course and the prosecutor didn't show up for 20 times. Sorry, not for 20, 12. Gary Griffith and Williams were the 2 police commissioners inside that their policing. One was actually there and the other one supposed to take up the battle and prosecute and bring it to the attention internally of the police service, the senior officers at that point in time who were caught wanting and now has been taken to the top of the hierarchy of the police service. If you don't fix the police service, we're going nowhere far. Go on, have a nice day.
Thank you, caller. We have move on the line. Caller, good morning. Caller, good morning. You're on here.
Good morning to the panel.
Morning.
Yes, concerning the refinery, right? Now, Scotiabank International will submit the information to the government. Or I want to know if the government, when they get that information, if they further vet that information that they get on account of the 3 bidders. We want transparency. We want to know what was the original submission that Scotiabank International has sent. We want to know that, right? Because in the past, the government says certain things, and then after it turned out to be something else. So they put themselves in that position. And we are not fools, Dr. Rowley, and Finance Minister and the Energy Minister, right? We want to know what is the original list. We want to know that. We want transparency. And it have no way on this planet that patriotic was not qualified. Right? That is my contribution for this morning. Thank you.
I just want to say that because I do have to go now. But I would say that one of the reasons of the thing is we don't know what questions the Scotia team was asked to ask.
Yeah.
Because if you want
well, that's what he's saying, that's part of the problem.
Yes, if you want the person to come out on top, you will know what questions and how you will grade it and what points you will assign to it. And the reason why the gentleman is right about the lack of confidence and so on, because it is on record that the Minister of Finance did say that we could restructure the bond payment, the bullet payment.
Refinery?
Yes, he did say that. Remember, they had promised patriotic, and then at the end of the day, the Minister of Finance is on record, it was in the papers, he did say that he could restructure it. They did what they wanted to do, and the bottom line to what I am saying is, it's difficult to have any confidence or any belief in anything they say because there's always a hidden agenda. Take it from me, there's a hidden agenda that you do not know about.
I'd just like to respond to Mr. San Fernando. All of these missed opportunities, it's because when you think about it, the crop of parliamentarians we have now, they don't seem to have the kind of skills that parliamentarians in the past had. Original ideas, innovative ideas, knowledge on how to do things. Except for oil and gas, because you copy and paste. You copy and paste what was there before. We find more gas, we make more money, right? But with regards to tourism, with regards to agriculture, where is the expertise and the drive and the passion behind those things? Because we have Dutch disease, and that actually also includes the thinking of parliamentarians.
But Sean, I will just finish by saying, if you have a leadership structure where you better shut your mouth, else you find yourself out of the Senate, or put in the backbench, you shut your mouth. So you understand that what you're going on there is not a question only of brain and brawn. It is the agenda of the government, and based on the agenda of the government, they will put things in place and put people in place that will carry out their agenda. That is my view on what is going on in the country.
And to close to that point, the five-star hotel and the airport, that's not a tourism project, that's a legacy project. The tourism people want it, but without the supporting other things to make the tourism product viable, to give us a coherent tourism product, it's going to be an asset that's going to be underutilized at best. With that said, no more calls, good lady has to go, and the show is already technically over its time, so I will just close to say thank you to Ms. Karen Nishishera. I'm rushing. That's why I'm trying to let you leave. Thanks to all the callers. Make today a good day, as Mr. Shaw will always say. Remember your allegiance to the Republic, and stay safe out there. And if you are not content, let your voices be heard. Not just in election day, but go out and vote. But also before that, participate in your democracy. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN